Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another live stream, man. Welcome everybody on YouTube land. Welcome to the LSN Mod Squad. Appreciate everybody coming through. It is your boy Lewis coming back at you once again with another live stream banger with yet another video. Make sure to smash the like button, hit that subscribe button, make sure your notifications are turned on. Make sure you're sharing this on your social medias and make sure you're sharing this on Reddit. Again, I always appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to watch my videos. I truly appreciate it. Welcome everybody to this live stream. Let me know who is in the building. And before I get started, I have to show you guys my look right before we get started and continue with this. Um, just give me a second. Okay, salute to people already, man. Shout out to Sports Experts. Shout out to Brandon. Shout out to G Money. Shout out to Richard in the building. We are talking about the 99 Knicks. And before I continue, again, just for you guys, check it out. Your boy had to get a new look. I was looking a little messy last couple of days, and actually last couple of weeks from the last time I got a cut. But as you can see, I'm fresh to death. Check it out. Your boy had to cop the fade look, so yo, and it feels good. I feel like I cut off 10 years with my hair. I'm gonna need a little bit of water for this. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, keep smashing that like, keep hitting that subscribe button as you guys come in, man. I truly appreciate it. Again, we're talking about the 98-99 Knicks. Let's not get into too much details. We could talk a lot of details in the chat, but I want to make sure that I break some things down, some things that we got to talk about just to show you how special that 98-99 season was. So again, keep smashing the like button, keep hitting that subscribe button. I'm going to show my boys, Chris Dudley, Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell, and Kurt Thomas. Make sure you guys keep smashing them like buttons, man, and continue to subscribe to the channel. Let's check out the chat. All right, man. Again, shout out to Joel, shout out to Ron, shout out to Sports Expert, man. Appreciate that, G Money. Shout out to the homie, Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Make sure y'all go subscribe to Mahari. He is just producing amazing content. Continue to subscribe to that brother's channel. I'm telling you, man, you take a listen to his channels, you will learn a lot of things, man. I'm telling you, make sure you guys go subscribe to his channel. Okay, let you know. All right, go subscribe to that man's channel. I'm telling you, man, he just articulate, just intelligent. You really learn a lot just from listening to his videos, and that's why I always try to, again, always push. Oh, also go subscribe to the Sports Expert 101. Make sure y'all go subscribe to his channel as well. Again, he's producing great content himself. So again, man, make sure y'all go subscribe. I appreciate the comments, guys. Appreciate it. Again, go subscribe to Mahari Sports. Appreciate that, guys. So fresh and so clean. That's right, man. One of my favorite tracks. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually going to do this for the chat. Tomorrow, I'm doing something different. I'm usually always mostly talking sports. Sometimes I'm talking about social issues and all that. And I've done live streams where I've done NFL and NBA trivia. I mean, I'm still going to be doing those things, but check it out. I'm pretty sure some of you guys like music, right? So what I thought was, for the first time ever on the Lewis Sports Network, why don't we do a music trivia? And the music trivia will be based on 80s, 90s, and 2000s. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about having a music trivia of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s right here on the Lewis Sports Network? I think it'd be something cool, something different to talk about. Before I get started, I'm going to set that stream up. Shout out to Jay. Appreciate it. Shout out to anybody like sports. Again, Sports Expert, you deserve the shout out. You're doing some great things. If you guys are into baseball, he's been doing live streams of Korean baseball. I saw one of his videos doing UFC. He did a sports trivia just a couple of days ago. Had a lot of fun doing that. So go show him some love and subscribe to Sports Expert. And again, go subscribe to Mahari Sports Nation. There's some things I found out about the 99 Knicks that'll be interesting. But again, if you guys want me to do a music trivia of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, let me know in the comment section. Okay, Sports Expert said that'd be great, man. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna do that tomorrow. So I'm gonna set the stream up. Make sure you guys can get as many people as you can. We're going to have fun with this music trivia. We're doing 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I'm going to try to make that video for 8 o'clock tomorrow. So I think that will be a lot of fun. And we get to talk about music because I'm a big, huge music head. So we're going to have a lot of fun. So some people are down with it. Cool. So I'm definitely doing that tomorrow. Sports Esper says I'll be streaming lots of NBA, NHL, and MLB when they come back. That should be fun. Awesome. Can't wait for that. I'll be looking forward to it. And I'm actually going to be streaming baseball games and also basketball games as well. So just make sure you're tuned for that. And just a quick heads up, me and D Jefferson will be back with basketball talk. So make sure you guys pull up for our live streams when we commentate together on these NBA games. So make sure you guys pull up. And hopefully, if the NFL season does not get canceled or if there's a delay, I will also be streaming NFL games. So I'm just giving you all guys all these heads up of, some of the things that are coming up on the Lewis Sports Network. Again, so smash that like, hit that subscribe, and make sure you guys are sharing this on your social media. All right, let's get on to this live stream. This one is going to probably be short or long, depending on how much we go. But this live stream is a special one for me because this is, as you know, I'm from New York, and it wouldn't be be right as a New Yorker to not talk about this basketball team, and that would be the 1998-1999 New York Knicks. Well, you're asking yourself, what is special? Oh, wow, Ryan, really? That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Little by little. Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you, Joel, for subscribing to Mojave Sports Podcast. I'm telling you, you tune in. He usually does historical perspectives throughout the week. He might upload 1 to 2 videos, depending on what the topic is per day. And then on Friday, he does basketball conversations. So this Friday, he'll be doing basketball conversations at 10 o'clock. So make sure you guys pull up for Mojave Sports at 10 o'clock with basketball conversations. I'm telling you, it's a great treat from what you guys talk about. Shout out to Karam in the building, man. Appreciate you guys coming through. Again, guys, share this on your social media outlets for the Lewis Sports Network. Getting back to the 98, 99 Knicks. Okay. So as you guys know, the Chicago Bulls won the NBA title in 1998. Jordan's last championship, Scottie Pippen's last championship, Phil Jackson's last championship. And, pretty much it's the end of the Bulls dynasty, right? Because of management, the team gets broken apart. Now, if you look at the New York Knicks, they just came off being eliminated by the Indiana Pacers in the second round of the playoffs. The Knicks only won 43 games in the 98 season. They did have some injuries on their team. I think they would have won 50 games if they didn't have the injuries they had. Patrick Ewing missed a lot of time as well with, I believe he had a wrist injury that he was recovering from. And this is where Patrick's body really, 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 really was beginning to break down. And he was getting up there in age too. So, and shout out to Mojave Sports. He mentioned this on the career of Latrell Sprewell, but this is where I'm going to cover it with the team. So Latrell Sprewell is infamously known for a choking incident that he had with PJ Carlesimo when Sprewell was a Golden State Warrior. Sprewell had made 3 All-Star teams with Golden State. I believe he went in 94, in 95, and in 97. So Sprewell was pretty good. He made a couple of All-NBA teams. So he did that. So he was pretty good. But the knock on Sprewell's issue is that from his childhood, he had a lot of bad memories. He had a lot of anger issues. They were issues that Sprewell, as well as he played, he just could not overcome that. And it would really affect his career, as well as he played for us Knicks. But anyway, he was suspended, from the Warriors from that incident. He was suspended without pay, and then they decided to suspend him for the rest of the season when he tried to appeal his case. I think it was 68 games, as Mojave mentioned on his channel. So what happens is now, John Starks, who was actually one of my favorite Knicks just because of his heart, but my issues with John Starks was he was very inconsistent. So we end up trading him for Sprewell in that trade. And then we end up trading Charles Oakley to get Marcus Camby, another player who was, kind of controversial in his own right and had not really accomplished anything, in the NBA while he was with the Toronto Raptors. I know he had issues with his former coach, Butch Carter, especially because in the 2000 season, they talked about there was an incident that happened, I believe, prior to game two. And was it game two? I think it was either game two or game one. But anyway, so there was an issue between, those two. So those guys didn't really get along. So then we have the season. Um, Shout out to Freddie Gee in the building. So now we look at this 99 team and we look at the roster. Sprewell happens to come in a trade. The Knicks they didn't really have a lot of good scoring on the wings other than Allen Houston, who I felt like at times, as good as he was, he sometimes could be inconsistent. I feel like sometimes he could be very tentative, especially when he went against good defenders. But when he played aggressively, Allen Houston was as just about as good as anybody. Maybe not at a superstar level, but definitely at an all-star level. So Allen Houston was actually one of my favorite players, you know. But getting back to this, so they remake the team. You look at this 99 roster, you have Patrick Ewing, Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston, you have obviously Larry Johnson, Kurt Thomas, Charlie Ward, Marcus Camby, Chris Childs, Dennis Scott, Chris Dudley, Ben Davis, Herb Williams, Rick Brunson, and David Wingate. So this is our roster. Um, According to Allen Houston, this team had a lot of injuries. Well, if I say a lot of injuries, that's kind of far fetched when I say a lot of injuries, but they did have some injuries. The Knicks. Excuse me 1 second, guys. Sorry. So if you look at the Knicks season, um, the only three players played 50 games that season. That would be Allen Houston, that would be Kurt Thomas, and that would be Charlie Ward. They were the only three players on the team that played all 50 games. Larry Johnson came close. He played 49. And at this point, Larry Johnson had a really bad back, during that lockout season. He played 49 games. But if you look at the rest of the team, Marcus Camby missed 4 games. Chris Childs missed 2 games. Chris Dudley, who you don't really count on to score, he's supposed to be, a low post defender. He played 46 games. But Latrell Sprewell and Patrick Ewing actually missed the most time out of any Knick. Sprewell missed 13 games. I believe he had a bad ankle sprain or a foot injury. And Patrick Ewing missed 12 games during the season, dealing with his own injuries. And if you remember, guys, this is the lockout season. So this is what's so crazy about this. Um, yeah. What's going on, Maze? Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, I feel like Allen Houston was really not that good of a defender, man. And personally, uh, again, appreciate everybody coming into the stream, coming into the chat. Definitely had to talk about the Knicks on here. So in continuation of the video, shout out to Freddie Gee in the building. Appreciate you, my brother. The crazy part about the lockout season was they really didn't have an off season together, which is pretty crazy. So chemistry was an issue, but then Patrick and Latrell actually missed time, during the season. So that really hurt them. So they did have chemistry issues. So if you look at Patrick, he played 38 games. He averaged the second most minutes on the team that year at 34. He averaged 17 points, 9.9 rebounds. Pretty good for a 36-year-old to still average 17 and 9 at 36 years of age. I got to give Patrick a lot of credit on that. I think he would have been down to probably like about 15 had they played more games that year. But he averaged 9.9 rebounds, and he was still able to give you 2.6 blocks at age 36. So, kudos to Patrick Ewing for that. Latrell Sprewell actually started off the bench, and that was to give the Knicks some firepower coming off the bench. He averaged 33 minutes a game, which was tied for the third most on the team. He played 37 games. He averaged 16.4 points, 3.1 rebounds, well, 4.2 rebounds, I should say, 2.5 assists, and 1.2 steals, and 0.1 blocks, zero point 0.1 blocks, I should say. So that was Latrell Sprewell. Allen Houston, he actually averaged the most minutes on this team and he was one of the 3 players that played all 50 games that year. So he averaged 36.3 minutes per game. He gave you 16.3 points. He gave you 3 rebounds, 2.7 assists, about as close to a steal, and then 2/10 of a block in 36 minutes of action. Larry Johnson, who played 49 games that year, gave you 12 points per game. He gave you 5.8 rebounds, 2.4 assists, zero point 0.7 steals, and zero point 0.2 blocks in 33.4 minutes per game. Now, they are the only 4 players to average double figures on their team. Patrick actually led all scorers on the Knicks at 17 a game, and this is your 36-year-old. You probably would have thought Houston and Sprewell would have probably led your team, but they were, they were balanced. They were balanced, but they did have chemistry issues, as Richard pointed out. They got off to a slow start in the season. Actually, no, they actually got to a solid start. They were okay. They were like about 3-1, 4-2 around there. But then they hit a really bad stretch where they struggled, and it was difficult for them. And according to Allen Houston, they came into camp as a championship team. Now, I don't know if that's the case. I didn't look at it that way, but that's what Allen Houston said. So, you got to take his word for it in terms of the result as to where the Knicks got to, right? So Kurt Thomas was actually the next best scorer on the starting lineup. He averaged 8.1 points per game. And it's crazy because this is a lockout. You have to wonder what all of their averages in terms of the players would be if they came off the bench in a full 82-game season. But Charlie Ward, and Marcus Camby were the only other players that gave you at least 7 points. So the Knicks had no player that averaged double digits coming off the bench. And in the starting lineup, Kurt Thomas was the only starter to average less than 10 points per game in the lineup. Larry Johnson gave you 12. Sprewell and Houston were at 16 apiece, and then Patrick led with 17 points per game. Let me just check the chat real quick. That's true. That's right. And let me just look in the chat. That's right. Cool. This is a huge point, and shout out to Mahar for mentioning this, because I said that Larry Johnson ended up messing up his back. At this point with the Knicks, he didn't have the explosiveness, and Larry Johnson said that he had to start to resort to more shooting. So he had to shoot more jump shots because he didn't have the athleticism that he once did. And if you look at Larry Johnson, there were games where he used to wear a lot of tape around his back. If people notice that, like right below his short, right just above his shorts, you would see tape wrapped around right on the lower part of his back. But that's because he would be getting his back iced, and it would be getting stretched out, and he would also be getting therapy, before the games, because, he had issues with his back. I believe he has some herniated disc, in his back. So he didn't have the athleticism that he once did when he was in Charlotte. So that hurt. So great point, Mahari. Ron says trading John Stockton Oak probably hurt at the time, but getting Spree and Camby turned out to be a great return. See that? Yeah, that's the key. If you end up trading them, you want to get at least a very solid reward. So, I mean, listen, you got Sprewell to give you still 16 a game. And the thing is also, Sprewell was a better defender and he was more taller. So that actually helped too. Because sometimes, even though John Stark is as big as he is listed, he don't look that tall when he was guarding guys like MJ and stuff like that. MJ looked like he had 3 to 4 inches on John Starks whenever he would guard him. But you get a solid perimeter defender wing who could play both the 2 and the 3 in Sprewell. Definitely could score, very good slasher to the basket. And then you got Marcus Camby. He's a good rebounder, gives you athleticism and energy with shot blocking off the bench. So that was good. I remember that in 08, Kobe was mic'd versus the Spurs regular season game. He was talking to Kurt Thomas and said, man, how long you still planning to play? Well, yeah, Kurt Thomas played a long time. I mean, he was on our 2013 Knicks squad. That's how long Kurt Thomas played. This Knicks team was better than their record, and offseason would have made them real contenders. Yeah, they needed an offseason to really like gel together, and come together. That's true. They didn't really have the opportunity to do that. So that's a very good point too, Richard. What's up, Freddie? Sly says the Knicks should have made the finals again. It would have been fun to see Sprewell versus Kobe in one of those 3-peat years. I would have actually loved them to see them in 2000. I got excited when the Knicks were actually playing the Lakers at Madison Square Garden. I remember Doug Collins said that he was really excited about the matchup, and he thought it was an electric matchup between Sprewell and Kobe. I liked actually when those two actually, went against each other. And the funny thing is, Kobe would switch guarding Allen Houston and Latrell Sprewell. I thought their matchups were pretty fun, even though they didn't guard each other like a lot. While Sprewell was a Knick and obviously Kobe was being in the Lakers. Ryan says, Lewis, who would beat who, 99 Knicks or the 2012 Knicks? All players healthy. That's a good question. What do you guys think in the chat? Um, I think with the way the Knicks played defensively, I think would give the 2012 Knicks a lot of problems. The one thing I will say though is the the 99 Knicks would have to figure out how to consistently defend the three. Um, with Steve Novak and J.R. Smith and Carmelo Anthony just bombing threes, that would have been interesting. And I would love to see Latrell Sprewell against Carmelo Anthony. That would have been a nice matchup. Um, Allen Houston against a J.R. Smith, things like that. That would have been actually nice. For me, I would choose the 99 Knicks. I just think their grit, the determination. Like I said, to me, I just take their defense, their ability to defend. I would go with their ability to play defense. I go with the 99 Knicks easy. That's just me personally. I would take the 98-99 Knicks. And he said they had back-to-backs almost every 5 days. That's the ending. Yeah, that's. Thank you for mentioning that, Richard. Thank you for mentioning that. What people forget about that lockout season, they were playing back-to-backs almost pretty much every single week. So when you don't get a chance to at least, there's a stretch in the regular season for every team, whether it's in the beginning, in the middle, or about the kind of heading towards the end a little bit for some teams, that they get a brief stint of rest where they'll play a game and then they don't play again until like maybe 5 days. You might even have 4 days. You might even have possibly 6 days. But the Knicks were playing back-to-backs almost every 5 days. That goes for every team in the league. So what kind of toll does that take on your body? And and you're doing that. Imagine if Patrick had played the amount of minutes, like 38 minutes, or imagine Houston and Sprewell. You know, that's a lot of minutes for your, on your body. That's a lot of wear and tear. He had those raps and tape. Absolutely. Same thing Michael Porter Jr. has. Yeah, 99 Knicks. Freddie says the 99 Knicks were tough. I might take them, but Melo's Knicks were underrated though. I would say that the 2013 Knicks for me are better than the 2012 Knicks, just for the simple fact that the 2013 Knicks were actually, for me, a slightly better defensive team than the 2012 team. But that was huge. It would have been an interesting series, though. Definitely for sure. Shout out to Jay in the building. He says the Knicks trading Pat was the beginning of the Knicks derailment. Melo trade was a bad deal depth wise. Insanity was over as quick as that begun. It's true. That's true, Bodega Wi-Fi. Good point. They did used to practice more back in the day. That's true. Considering the amount of back-to-backs they played, they did practice a lot more. So that's a great point. Shout out to Bodega Wi-Fi for coming in. Uh, Ryan says, oh wait, Jay says the Knicks trading Pat was the beginning of the Knick derailment. Melo trade was a bad deal, depth-wise. Well, yeah, that's why I was not a fan of. I was not a fan of Melo coming to the Knicks as long as our depth got destroyed. But I blame that on James Dolan pressuring Donnie Walsh to make that deal. And that's why it got as bad as it did. Tyson Chandler was on the 2012 squad. Yeah, he was on the 2012 team. Um, and again, appreciate it, man. Appreciate that. Uh, Ryan says just like the 98-99 Knicks have to worry about Melo, 2012 Knicks have to worry about Patrick Ewing when healthy. Hey, man, exactly. I'd probably go with the 98-99 Knicks, but it would have been interesting. That team was good, but they were lacking anybody that could guard even an old Ewing. That's yeah, because I just told you, Patrick Ewing at 36 still gave you 17 points and 9 rebounds. So imagine if Patrick doesn't have to deal with the physicality. As Bodega said, they were practicing much more back in the day, and they were playing back-to-backs every 5 days, as Richard said. And he still gave you 17 points and 9 rebounds with the fact that his body was breaking down. Just imagine Patrick Ewing healthy playing today. That's a great point. um, over Melo's Knicks. I would take the 99 Knicks over Melo's Knicks. I think it'll be an interesting series, though. Man, Chandler can't guard Ewing as much as I like him. Because you also got to remember, it's not that Tyson's not a good defender, but and he is kind of a hybrid. But Tyson's main game is to guard the low post and block shots. Patrick Ewing can step out and hit that mid range jump shot, um, and he can occasionally drive when he goes one on one in the post. If you put Patrick Ewing on the face up, not when he has his back to the basket, but when he's in the face up against another center, I think Tyson will have his moments where he could block his shot and stay with Ewing just because he's the more younger player. But if an old Ewing is giving you 17 and 9 in a lockout year, you just imagine what that dude is going to do, fully healthy, even in today's game. And then just imagine a prime Patrick Ewing. Just crazy. Yeah, that's the thing. Man-to-man defense is where I question Tyson Chandler. I feel like he was honestly a very good help defender, but not somebody who could guard one-on-one. It's the same with Serge Ibaka. He's a good defender, but because if you look at Dirk Nowitzki gave Serge Ibaka fits. You know, it takes players like that to where even very good defenders, you know, would have issues, trying to guard. So that's big. Um, Freddie says true, and he says, didn't Tyson have beef with Melo? I don't know. I think it was. I think there possibly was a beef. I think there is a report that they did have a little bit of a beef. I might have to look that up, but I believe there was beef. Again, guys, so smash the like button, hit that subscribe button for the Lewis Sports Network. As you can see, Allen Houston, Marcus Camby, and Latrell Sprewell decided to show up. Thank you guys for coming through on the thumbnail because I'm talking about you guys and what you guys mean to me. It seems like players whole reached their primes, risen to the occasion, but Ewing in his prime was really robbed and denied versus Hakeem, when Hakeem in his prime dominated. Oh, it was Amari. Okay. Thank you, Richard. Man, I remember Ewing giving a young Camby the work. Oh, that's facts. I heard he used to even give him work in practice too when they was on the same team. So it lets you know that Patrick still had game even at his age. All right, so getting back to the Knicks, they struggled throughout the season. They were inconsistent defensively. A lot of it had to do with chemistry, and there was at a point where I think they lost. They lost to the Bulls, and if you guys remember, the Bulls had the best record in the East when Jordan and Pippen were there. But the 98-99 team had the worst record in the league during the lockout season in '99. And I said, look at that. They went from an NBA champion to dismantle. They get dismantled, and then they have the worst record in the league. Um, so that's crazy. That's pretty crazy. You know, So the Knicks, um, they finished the season 27 and 23, but they were 21 and 21 through the first 42 games. So what happened? The one thing that had to happen was that what they had to do was they had to win 6 of their last 8 games to get into the playoffs. Actually, no, the team with the worst record in the league was actually the Vancouver Grizzlies at 8 and 42. The Clippers were second at 9 and 41, while the Bulls were 13 and 37. They were the worst in the East, but they had the third worst record in the league. The Nets actually had the fourth worst at 16 and 34. All right, so remember that before, there used to be 4 divisions, and it was the Atlantic Division, Central Division, Midwest, and Pacific. 3 of those exist, which is the Pacific, Central, and Atlantic. The difference is the Midwest got changed to the Southwest Division, and then we added a Northwest Division in 2003. So in 2003, they added 2 more divisions, and then in the East, they added the Southeast. But before that, we have 4 divisions. So it was the Atlantic, Central, Midwest, and Pacific. The Midwest became the Southwest because and Minnesota and Denver, Vancouver stayed in the Southwest. They would be with San Antonio, Houston, Minnesota, San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas. Denver and Minnesota, they moved they moved to the Northwest. That was by 2003. All right, so if we look at the standings, the Knicks finished 27 and 23. They averaged as a team 86 points per game. They allowed 85 points per game. Now, if you look at this era, only one team out of all 30 teams actually allowed the most points in the league, and that was Sacramento. They allowed 100 points per game, but they were actually the #1 scoring team in the league during the lockout at 100 a game. They just gave up 102, which tells you they're not really that good of a defense. Also, the Denver Nuggets, too. They were the only 2 teams to allow 100 points per game that year. The Knicks allowed 85. To put that in perspective, I believe in terms of their scoring defense, let me just check. In terms of their scoring defense, let's look at the Knicks stats defensively. So they were 24th in pace, and I'll get into the chat. They were not a good offensive team, but that was, again, as Richard said, chemistry issues. They were 27th in points per game at 86, but they were 4th in the league in points allowed at 85.4. And then their defensive rating was 97.5, which would put them 4th in the NBA during the lockout season. So it tells you that even though they were not a great offensive team, they still could get it done on the defensive end. Shout out to Anonymous in the building. Shout out to Daniel Berry. Appreciate that, Anonymous. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate it. That's right. And shout out to Daniel Berry, the GOAT. Appreciate that. Yeah, they have the worst leadership for real. Lewis, he says, Lewis, how many sports teams can there be in a state? Well, it depends on what state you live in. Depends on what state. Here in New York, we have what? Hockey. We have hockey, baseball, basketball, football. Even though the 2 football teams play in Jersey, but they're considered New York sports. And the Giants used to play in, the Giants Stadium that's over there in Queens. So we have what, 4? Then if you include minor league teams, so you can have quite a few, man. You can have quite a few. You can have quite a few teams. So it's really no limit. So there's going to be some teams in the cities that are probably not going to have as much, but for the most part, you can have a lot. You know. Um, but yeah, guys, keep liking the videos, keep subscribing to the channel. If you guys are new, make sure to do that. Oh, that's right, Bodega. Good point. I forgot about the Buffalo Bills. Thank you for reminding me of that. The Buffalo Bills are in New York. So, but I did say football, so they're a sport. But yeah, you're right. Buffalo Bills is also New York. They're just upstate. Well, in this case, though, those are all basketball teams. Those are all basketball teams. Hey, yeah, you really got to ask the Cali fans. Yeah, California, that's crazy because they got, before Oakland left, they had Oakland. They just got the Rams to be there. They got the Chargers. So they have what, 3 or 4 football teams of their own. Then you got the baseball teams with Anaheim and the Dodgers and Oakland and San Francisco. Richard's right. You got to ask California. They probably got. And then in hockey, you got the San Jose Sharks. You have the Los Angeles Kings. I'm just like, you got the Anaheim Ducks. I'm like, God damn. And like you just said with basketball, man, Cali has 4 baseball teams, 2 football teams, 3 baseball teams, and I just named 3 hockey teams. So there you go. Cali's full of it when it comes to sports. Exactly. Not to mention 3 hockey teams. Exactly. Exactly. All right. So getting back on the 98-99 Knicks, they finished the 8th seed, and then they end up facing Miami. They end up facing Miami. If you look at the standings, actually, ladies and gentlemen, three teams in the East finished with 33 wins. Miami was the 1 seed, Indiana was the 2 seed, Orlando was the 3 seed, Atlanta was fourth with 31 wins. So if you look at who the Knicks beat, to get to the NBA Finals, we start off with their rival, the Miami Heat. Uh, Miami is one of the best defensive teams in the league. They're coached by the Knicks, Patrick Ewing's former coach, Pat Riley. Alonzo Mourning ends up winning Defensive Player of the Year this year in '99. Alonzo Mourning was one of the more underrated defenders, and shot blockers of his time, which made him really special. They had Tim Hardaway, Jamal Mashburn. Um, it just shows you how great, those Miami teams were, which made them really special. And then, wow, even a few MLB soccer teams. Look at that. Lets you know right there. Yeah. So getting back with the Knicks, their first opponent was the Miami Heat, and as Sprewell says it, when those two teams battled, it's like you would have died, leaving everything on the floor. That's how great defensively both teams were when it comes to them. They're both teams that can get on a run, but they'll let each other back in the game because they both go through scoring droughts. So Miami was not a high scoring team. There were only two teams in the league in during the lockout that averaged 100 points a game each, and that was the Kings and the Nuggets. They were the only two teams, right? Again, shout out Anonymous Fokker for for all these, all of these I almost said Canada. I meant California teams. So getting back on this, guys. So they faced the Miami Heat. Miami beats the Knicks after the Knicks had a 3-1 lead. That 97 Knicks team should have faced the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. It doesn't happen. They blow a 3-1 lead. With the suspensions, yes, Sprewell choking PJ Carlissimo, exactly. Crazy. But getting back on it, Miami were the favorites, so the Knicks were the underdogs. Obviously, they were the 8th seed. The Knicks, for me, I always felt that they were the better team because I always felt like with Miami, even though the Knicks ended up choking, but there were some key suspensions in that 97 series. Miami should have beaten them in 98, but the Knicks showed that they were the better team, and they ended up beating them. And it's funny because the 98 team actually has some injuries of their own. Shout out to Louisville Cardinals. Appreciate you coming through. I still remember that game 4 when Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning, they went at it. Those two don't know how to fight. But anyway, they were throwing some lollipop hands. And who you see on the bottom, you see Jeff Van Gundy trying to stop the fight by grabbing on Alonzo Mourning's leg like a little kid. It was too funny, man. too funny. Again, shout out to Louisville Cardinals, man. And I was just cracking up as if trying to see who's down there. I always get a good laugh anytime I see that, you know. But it's crazy. And Bodega Wi-Fi says both of our point guards were hurt. Yeah, Chris Charles was hurt, and so was Charlie Ward. We tried playing Houston and Sprewell at the point, so they had to actually split some time at the point guard position. And Houston and Sprewell actually they played more minutes than any Knick that entire playoff run, especially in the NBA Finals, as I'll get to later. Richard, Knicks can't waste their new direction on Mike Brown though, unless you want to overpay for an offensive. Absolutely. And my issue with Mike Brown is he has a tendency to lose command of his players, especially when it comes to some of the stars. Like you have to earn respect of the players. And Mike Brown, for me, has that. To me, he has an issue with that. I think it'll be a little bit more easier because he has much of a younger team. But when it comes to dealing with stars, he has a difficult time with stars. So the Knicks, impressively, they win the first game. If you look at that series against the Miami Heat, so they played them in the playoffs. Let me just look at the playoffs per game against Miami. Let's see. Let me just type in Knicks and Heat, and you look at these scores, and it lets you know. If you look at these, and this is when Alonzo is rocking the ball head. So you look at the playoffs. The Knicks beat the Heat by 20, 95-75, right? They beat them by 20. Patrick Ewing had 15 rebounds in that game. Alonzo Mourning had 27 points. But the Knicks beat them by 20. Just obliterated the Miami Heat at home. And Miami had won 33 games, best record in the Eastern Conference, tied with two other teams. Allen Houston has 22 points. Patrick Ewing only went 4 out of 12. But then Latrell Sprewell gave you 22 points off the bench. Marcus Camby gave you 11. They have 4 guys in double figures. Then if you look at the Miami Heat, it was only Alonzo Mourning that scored. He had 27 points. Tim Hardaway was 4 for 19, and I think this is when Tim Hardaway, had the foot injury. So the Knicks win game 1. Game 2, Miami beats the Knicks. Still a low-scoring game by 10, 83-73. They beat them by 10. If you look at game 3, the Knicks win by 24. It's crazy that an 8th-seeded Knicks team beat Miami by 20-plus points in 2 times in the series. Then Miami comes back, and they blow out the Knicks. They beat them by 15. So the first 4 games, guys, are all double digits. Knicks with 2 20-point victories, Miami with 2 10-point victories, right? What's crazy. And then you got game 5, the infamous game 5. And I want to put back this thumbnail because this one's really special with me. That guy right there. Game 5 will forever be remembered as the game that Allen Houston, for one time, looked like a clutch performer when he hit that big shot to put us up by 78-77. It was one of the most dramatic game-winning shots in not just Knicks history, but playoff history. And this was to a number 1 seeded Miami Heat team. I can't tell you, that was the most excited I've ever seen Allen Houston, because Allen Houston is usually very mellowed. He's very mellowed. He's not really somebody that gets overly emotional. He's somebody who kind of stays within the moment. But to see Allen Houston show that much emotion after hitting a shot, it was crazy. And I'm glad, I was happy for him, because it gave you that feel that he started to become, at least for a moment, that he could be a big time player. I said, you know what? I said, maybe this shot gives Allen Houston confidence to play well in the playoffs. So the sequence goes, Terry Porter misses the shot. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the New York Knicks become the second team in NBA history to knock off a number 1. The other team to do it was the 8th-seeded Seattle Supersonics. The number 1 seed Seattle Supersonics, losing to the 8th-seeded Denver Nuggets. Now, as much as I was impressed with Allen Houston hitting that shot and the Knicks beating the Heat and really sticking it to them, Miami was haunted, for a while. That was the second year in a row they got a lower seed. And people forget this too. The previous year, Miami was the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and the New York Knicks were 7th. So the 7th-seeded Knicks beat the number 2 Miami Heat. Actually, no, my mistake. No, the Knicks, I think, were the 6th seed in 98. Let me just check to make sure. Let me check. In the Eastern Conference. Oh, no, I was right. The Knicks were the 7th seed. Miami had 12 more wins than the Knicks in '98, and the Knicks knocked them off in 5 games. And the Knicks were 28 and 13 at home that year. They just couldn't win on the road, and they had a lot of injuries. It's crazy, right? So you have that, right? Right, ladies and gentlemen, you got that. Steve Smith, no, he was not on the Knicks. Steve Novak was, but not Steve Smith. Steve Smith, he started out with the Heat. Then he went to the Atlanta Hawks. After the Hawks, he went to the Portland Trail Blazers, and then he went to the San Antonio Spurs, and then he finished his career with the Charlotte Bobcats in the 05-06 season. Let me just check the comment section before I continue. Yeah, Allen Houston was a hooper. Chris Charles punching Kobe not just once but twice was some of my favorite things to happen on the court. Oh, when he gave him that two-piece. He gave Kobe that two-piece with no biscuit on the side. Lewis, who was the most overrated and underrated player in Knicks team in NBA history? Wow. The most overrated? Who was the most overrated? The most overrated Knick in NBA history. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. That's tough. Who's the most underrated Knick? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Oh yeah, that's true. No, that's all good, Anonymous. He said insanity. Mahari says during the Atlanta series, Sprewell feasted on Steve Smith. Steve was a horrible defender, couldn't do anything to stop him. Absolutely. If you guys remember the very next round, they went up against the Atlanta Hawks. They won 31 games that year. So if you look at their team and if you look at the Heat, if the Heat win 33 games, they're on pace for like about a 55, 56 win season. And then if you look at the Hawks, they look like they're on pace to win 53 to 54 games. So if we really do the math in the 82 game season, both of those teams are looking like they're winning 50 plus games. So Sprewell absolutely gobbled up Steve Smith in that series, and the Knicks ended up sweeping Atlanta. And I said, it's crazy to me how the New York Knicks beat in 5 games a Miami Heat team that won 33 games. They come back and beat a 31 team in the Atlanta Hawks, and not just beat them, but they beat them convincingly in a sweep. You say Bill Bradley? Okay. Yeah, he kept it shut. Yeah, I know. It was weird. I said, Allen Houston, I was like, he about to show emotion. And I'm like, oh no, he ain't do nothing. Yeah, that's a good point, Ron. So getting back to Atlanta, they sweep them in 4 games. Okay. Then, ladies and gentlemen, they go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I'm saying to myself, even if the Knicks don't make it to the finals, this is a hell of an accomplishment because no eighth seed had ever even gone that far. Then I said to myself, okay, they're facing Reggie Miller and the Pacers. I think the Pacers are going to beat the Knicks in the series because they have the better team. Reggie Miller only had one good game in that series. And remember that this series is famously known, I should say, not infamous, famously known for the famous 4-point play by Larry Johnson that he hit on Antonio Davis on the left side of the floor in game 3, closing moments of the fourth quarter. And this was with I'm trying to remember if the Knicks trailed by 3. I think they trailed by 3. Um, and Larry Johnson's huge 4-point play gave the Knicks a 2-games-to-1 lead. And I remember Bill Walton, who was commentating those games on NBC, he said he felt that the Pacers never really had control of the series. He ended up being right. Um, and it was just a cool moment, uh, to just see the Knicks, underdogs to go up 2 games to 1 on Indiana. And I said, can we really do this? I mean, it's possible, man. All we got to do is just believe, you know. But They didn't, they end up losing game 4, but then you have game 5. Game 5 was the biggest game of the series. Houston, Sprewell, Marcus Camby, and Larry Johnson all stepped up, and we took a 3-2 lead. And I said, man, can the Knicks do this? Can the Knicks really pull off the improbable and go to the NBA Finals and knock off the Pacers? And I said the Pacers also won 33 games in 1999 in the lockout. And I said they would equate to 350-win teams. I said, damn. And remember, Patrick Ewing got injured in game 2 of that series. With his, I think it was a foot injury. I think it was a foot injury that Patrick Ewing had. Some kind of broken bone in his foot or something. But I remember that he popped it when he tried to hit the game-winning shot in game 2. And I said, man, I don't know if we could go to the NBA Finals now because we just lost our best play, our heart and soul of the Knicks. But give credit to Sprewell. Shout out to Road Dogg in the building. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming through. Again, guys, smash the like and hit that subscribe for the Lewis Sports Network. Houston, Sprewell was obviously starting at that point. It's crazy to me. That's a good point, Richard. Bernard King kind of they kind of disappear, him and Earl the Pearl, when it comes to those Knicks. Underrated Knicks. That was a good point. Because they're usually talking about Clyde Frazier, but that's because also he's on TV all the time. Bernard King and Monroe are, obviously not. So Clyde is kind of relevant due to the fact that he still does Knicks broadcast Knicks games as a color commentator. So yeah, man, it's game 6. I'm thinking to myself, we can't blow this opportunity because I said if we lose game 6, then the Knicks are not going to beat game 7. I don't think they'll win game 7 in Indiana. I just feel like that's a little bit of a tall task for them to go on the road and win game 7 in Indiana, as inconsistent as the Pacers were. And it would have been the Pacers and the Spurs in the NBA Finals. I don't know how many people would have watched that. I think ratings would have been. I know ratings were low for the Knicks and the Spurs, but I think it would have really been low had it been the Pacers against the San Antonio Spurs for 99. Shout out to the King for coming through also. Oh yeah. Dave Melo was the most overrated Knick. Underrated X-Man, Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley. I'm digging more X-Man for the fact that I felt that if X-Man had stayed with the Knicks, we probably beat the Chicago Bulls. I feel like his toughness was missing because Charles Smith was too soft for us. Even if he did make it to the finals. Yeah, Reggie was the Knicks' kryptonite for sure. Arch nemesis. I mean, that's a fact. Jay says Linsanity disappeared as quickly as he appeared. Oh, that's right. That's a fact. Man came into the league like he was going to be a superstar, but he was a role player. Yeah, Linsanity was a role player. Most underrated has to be Earl Monroe. Yep. Possible, man. Can't trade your depth for one star and then expect big things. That's bad management, especially when Melo wanted the Knicks. Can't overpay. Great point. If Ewing had his team in his prime, he could have possibly won. Possible. I always see people mention them. Yeah. More appearances. If you ask casual fans who is Bernard King, they won't know. Bernard King is Bodega says, are we focusing on player development or are we following the Celtics and Lakers blueprint of accumulating assets and trading for stars? We don't even really know. We don't even really know, to be honest. Shout out to Giants Alliance, and guys, make sure you guys go subscribe to his channel. Giants Alliance is producing great content. Make sure you guys go subscribe to the Giants Alliance. Huge Giants fan. He's a fan of basketball, He also is a Yankees fan. So make sure to show him some love. I want to help him grow. So go subscribe to his channel. He's producing great content. He's a definitely up and coming YouTuber. Um, so I want to get his subscribers up. So if you guys can, make sure you guys go subscribe to the Giants Alliance. I'm going to leave his channel in the chat. Here is the Giants Alliance channel. Make sure you guys go, if you guys can, like his videos and make sure that you guys go subscribe to his channel. So I left the link to his channel in the chat. He says that Larry Johnson was underrated. He went from being elite athletically to reinventing his game after back injuries. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I had mentioned that earlier in the video, that I said that Larry Johnson, if the Knicks would have gotten athletic Larry Johnson with a jump shot, Larry Johnson would have been even more scary. It's just we got Larry Johnson that had to reinvent himself due to injuries. And sometimes, guys, injuries kind of force you to really change your game when you notice that you can't rely on something anymore. So, but yeah, Larry Johnson was definitely underrated. This guy made two All-Star teams. That's how good Larry Johnson at least was before he had to reinvent himself, because he was not a jump shooter before. But give credit to Larry Johnson for adjusting his game, because if he didn't do that, what asset is he really going to be for the Knicks? He wasn't going to really be one. Um, Anybody like sports says, I didn't like that Mark Jackson trade for Doc Rivers. I was not a fan of it either. I thought Mark Jackson should have stayed. That was another issue I had. I felt he should have stayed too. Yeah, that's true. Don't expect the casual fans to know anything, man. Yeah, I will say that. I didn't like the fact that they kind of overpaid for him. Oh, no problem, Giants Alliance. You deserve it, man. Man, I know plenty of younger fans that are deep into basketball and don't know King of Monroe. Well, you know what that is, Richard? It's because of the generation. And this is why that people have to really start trying to educate themselves and really have to learn their history. Like they should do that. Like even if you watch more of today's product, to really learn the history of your team, you gotta watch history, because there's gonna be a lot of things that you don't miss. But again, they're not gonna know who Bernard King or Earl the Pro are because they don't really know Knicks history. You have to watch Knicks history to try to understand who they are. You may not know who they are because you've never seen them play, but at least you understand, you know, oh, there's more great players besides the ones that you grew up watching. So, and some people they'll say that they'll know basketball, but it's like they won't admit that, oh, I didn't grow up watching this person or this person. They'll say that they'll know history, but if you tell them questions like that, they're not going to know because they're the casual fan. So in order to really understand your team, you got to really watch history. It's true. That's true. I can't believe they let the X-Man go. They should have paid him more money, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. I feel like his tenacity, his tenacity is what kept us in that series against the Bulls in '92, and it's one of my favorite series. I saw all 7 games. I could binge watch and watch that series again. Just the intensity, the tenacity of both teams, the suspense. Like it was more than a storyline. It was a war. It was a war. The competition level between those two teams were unbelievable. Just the physical, the grittiness, man, I love that. Like that series was a lot of fun, just to watch. Giants Alliance said it would have been awesome to see the Hornets version of LJ on the Knicks. Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. We could have had Grandmama. Imagine if he reinvented himself and you add his athleticism to that. That would have been really nice for our team. Really nice. Really? You think so, King? Hmm. The 98 to 2000 team had more talent than the 92 to 94 team. That's interesting. Yeah, that's actually who they remember. That's true. Richard asking the wrong people, man. Knicks fans should know at least big names for their Knicks. Well, they should. If you really know your patient history, he said those yellow Pacer jerseys used to make me want pineapple soda or just pineapple. You know what? Speaking of pineapple, makes you want to go watch the Pineapple Express. Great movie, by the way. Yeah, he was a beast in NBA Jams. That's big facts, Bodega. Big facts. Yeah, that was good backs. That was good backs, MJ. Yep. LJ. I said MJ. LJ. Man, that's like expecting offense to know Gus Williams. See, there you go. And Gus Williams played in what time? He played in the 70s. Earl Monroe deferred so much of his game in order to fit in with the Knicks and Clyde. Before coming to the Knicks, Earl was one of the best one-on-one players I've ever seen. Wow, it's true. I saw his highlights when they were, looking at his career. Earl was really, really good one-on-one. He was very, Earl was very flashy when it came to his one-on-one moves for his time. I'm not going to say today's NBA. For his time, they were pretty flashy. He was pretty good one-on-one. He was very, very tough to guard one-on-one. Yeah, I would agree with that. I felt the 92 Knicks had more best equipped, to win a championship ring. It's just they ran into Mike and Scotty, and the Bulls were the cream of the crop in the NBA at that point. But it's true. They could have had a championship. Yeah, Earl the Pearl, there's a reason that dude is in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the greatest players to ever play, man. You don't get the name Earl the Pearl for nothing. Yeah, you can. Jay is right. You can't say that you're a diehard Knicks fan, but you don't even know who Earl the Pearl Monroe is. A diehard Knicks fan, even if you didn't see the player play, you would know your history. That's why I said you got to know your history. You got to know your history. If you know your history, trust me. Once you know your history, you don't even have to worry about it. You could just tell. A diehard person will try to learn their history. Great defender, passer, scorer, shooter, unbelievable player. The first Black Jesus before MJ. And like I said, if you guys want to really learn your history, go watch. Go watch. You should watch Knicks highlights, man. Watch some Walt Clyde Frazier. Watch some Earl the Pearl. I mean, some Dave DeBuscher, Willis Reed, Bill Bradley. Really try to learn your history. They thought that by singing Steve Francis and Marbury, it would be the second coming of Earl and Frazier. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, that wasn't gonna work out. That Steve Francis, Stephon Marbury stuff wasn't gonna work out. Especially if you look at their style of play. Their style of play is cool and all, but it's not conducive to winning though. The King says for me, when you're comparing the position, the 98 2000 Knicks guards, Houston and Sprewell beat the 92 94 Knicks guards of Harper and Starks. One advantage already that they both have is they're taller. Two, they could post up. Three, they could penetrate to the basket. So they could really use their size to their advantage. The only advantage that Harper and Starks have is to push them in the open court and get in transition. Um, but Houston and Sprewell, I felt Sprewell was obviously the better defender than Allen Houston. I felt Allen Houston was a good defender in the team system, but Sprewell was a much better defender than Allen Houston. But at least when guarding John Starks and guarding Derek Harper, they would have been able to give them fits because Starks and Harper's best shot is to get into the open floor against those two. Um, but those two would have given them mismatches. And I would give Houston and Spiegel the edge just because I feel like they're a little more consistent on both ends than Derek Harper and John Starks. Absolutely anonymous. That's right. That's right. Yep. Absolutely. Get to know about where your team came from. The first Black Jesus is the reason Spike Lee named Ray Allen character Jesus and he got game. There you go. What I liked about Earl, his style, his moves were strictly his own. And back then he had a dope spin move. Oh, his spin move was really nice. If you guys watch his highlights, his spin move was so crisp. It was very crisp. Very crisp. That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, I look at it at both ends. I look at it from a basketball historian and from a fan perspective today. But again, when you're diehard, you know your history. You know your history. Well, I'm not going to say know your history, learn your history. That's the better way to put it. Okay, so the Knicks eliminate the Indiana Pacers in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Allen Houston has 32 points, which was a career high at the time. And the Knicks end up going to the NBA Finals. And it was a treat. It was cool. And I'm like, I can't believe this. I'm like, we're the first team, the first 8 seed in NBA history to go to the NBA Finals. And Houston did it on a career high 32 points, and he killed Reggie Miller in Game 6. It was so fun to see, and people forget that Jeff Van Gundy's job was on the line that season. If Jeff would have gotten eliminated by Miami, he would have been fired, and we would have not heard of Jeff Van Gundy again. Maybe they replaced him with Don Chaney because he did take over in 2002, but I don't know if they would have probably went a different route. Who knows? Uh, but it's crazy how things change with the fate of one shot by Allen Houston. Like that's how big his shot was. That's how big it. That's how big it was. Again, ladies and gentlemen, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button for your boy Lewis Sports Network. We're gonna end the video in a little bit. I just want to talk a little bit about the NBA Finals, and then we'll close it up. Um, it's true. I was reading this article. Jeff Van Gundy says that Allen Houston saved his job and he altered lives, and it's true. Had it not been for that Allen Houston shot, Jeff Van Gundy would have never come back as Knicks head coach. Okay. Anybody like sports says, would it have been hard for the league if it went 91 Bulls, 92 Knicks, 93 Suns instead of a Bulls three-peat? Well, there would have been more parity. So that's one thing. Um, that takes away the dynasty. That takes away the dynasty paradigm. Because if you look at the Bulls, they had two three-peats in the 90s. You take away the Bulls' first three-peat, 91, 92, 93. Again, that changes the career of Patrick Ewing. That changes the career of Charles Barkley automatically, right there. Automatically. We would not be talking about Michael Jordan like the way we do had the Knicks and the Suns won the NBA championship that season in their seasons. As much as I hate to admit it, it would have been. Jordan needed to exist and be successful for the game to change and guards to excel. As for forwards, I think it's more comparable, but I'll give it to the 92-94. Oakley Mason only because LJ wasn't the prime Hornets. Plus, I don't think Camby was the power forward on that team. I think Camby played center when he came off the bench. I think it was when him and Patrick were together, he moved to power forward, but he played center coming off the bench. But yeah, guys, we get to the NBA Finals. The Knicks play against Tim Duncan, David Robinson, in San Antonio. San Antonio, uh, they tied with Utah, having the best record, having the best record in the NBA that season at 37-13. The Jazz got eliminated by the Blazers, who won 35 games. The Spurs they sweep, so they beat Minnesota in 4 games. The eighth seeded Timberwolves. Then they beat the Lakers. They sweep them in 4. Then they sweep the Blazers. So they beat two 30 win teams. They beat two 30 win teams And yep, let me see. Yeah, they beat 231 teams, and then they obviously beat the Knicks, who end up winning. Let me see how many games did the Timberwolves win? Well, no, that's the okay. So now we look at the 1999 NBA Finals. So the Spurs win 5 games. If you look at the series, games 3, 4, and 5 were pretty close. Games 1 and 2, the Spurs won by 12 and 13. Tim Duncan had 33 points in game one. Sprewell led scores with 26 in game two. Allen Houston scored 34 points in game three. That was a career high. Allen Houston came up really huge in that game. Patrick Ewing was not playing. He was injured with a foot injury. The Spurs beat the Knicks 96-89 in game four. Tim Duncan had 28 points and 18 rebounds in that game. Uh, it's crazy. Tim Duncan averaged no less than 12 rebounds the entire series. Well, except for game five. Uh, and then Sprewell, the infamous game five. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yep. So game five. This is where Latrell Sprewell really, to me, really wins the heart of the New York Knicks because they won 25 games. Okay, thank you for that. This is where he wins the heart of the New York fans. Do y'all remember that dunk that he threw on Jaren Jackson in the third quarter of game five? I believe that cut the lead to 4 on a fast break. Sprewell was a man possessed, and he kept us in the game the entire time. Allen Houston, I think, struggled, and he struggled in games 4 and 5. But people forget that Sprewell and Houston were playing heavy minutes. That's why it hurt not having Patrick Ewing there. I think the minutes would have been a little more less, but they had to log in heavy minutes. Charlie Ward didn't play well that entire series. Chris Childs, I believe, maybe had one decent game, but he didn't play well. So the point guards really didn't do their thing. So Sprewell did all he could to carry the team and keep them in the game, but it was just not enough. It was a classic game. It showed you what 90s basketball was and how low scoring it was. And if you look at the score, Avery Johnson hits the go-ahead jump shot, and I don't know how they left him wide open like that. They didn't need to double Sean Elliott so hard. I didn't understand that. And Sprewell left Avery Johnson wide open in the corner. And Sprewell had a broken ankle. Exactly, Bodega. That's the thing. He said, that's for the bench. You could decide that. Okay. All right. I'll decide it. Yeah, it's true. Absolutely. They can name Walt, Willis Reed, Ewing, Houston Sprewell, but Dave DeBuscher and Earl Monroe are forgotten. Yeah, they're not gonna know those guys. When Sprewell played with a broken ankle, exactly. He showed he had heart. And yo, he scored 35 points. He had 25 of his 35 in the second half. We almost could have pulled that game out. He did everything he could to keep us in the game, and for that I give him a lot of heart. But unfortunately, that Avery Johnson shot hurt. We weren't able to score. I know people tried to get free on the baseline. He tried to shoot it over a double on Sean Elliott and Tim Duncan, but they closed out really well on Sprewell, and they forced him to take a tough shot, and that was the end of it. And the San Antonio Spurs win the NBA title. So in the end, was I disappointed? Yeah. I mean, as a New York fan, you're disappointed. You got to give the Spurs a lot of credit. Um, but I don't think we're ever going to see this again, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think we're ever going to see this again. For an eighth-seeded team like the Knicks to go as deep as they did when they were underdogs the entire playoffs, every single team that they faced were 30-win teams. Now, imagine if they would have won the championship. If you do the math hypothetically, they would have faced 4 50-win teams and an entire playoff run. That's if you calculate the projected win total for all four basketball teams they played in the playoffs. The Spurs were on their way to a 60-win season. That's how good they were playing. I told you Miami and Indiana are 55 to 57 wins right there. And then Atlanta is like 53 to 54. That's a gauntlet kind of in its own right. Kind of. Considering they play back-to-backs every 5 days. This would have been one of the craziest Cinderella stories. This would have been one heck of a movie on a DVD for a championship team. They don't know about McAdoo. That's right. No, not at that time, Anonymous. He played in 2004. He played from 2004 to 2009 with the Spurs. He won two titles with them in 2005 and 2007. Nope, they don't know Bob McAdoo, one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. Played for the Lakers and won two titles with them, 82 and 85. The Knicks beating the Spurs. Oh, I remember that. North Carolina against Houston. Spree was awesome. Spree was awesome. He really exemplified what being a Knick was all about when you look at his heart. Teams have been off all this time, and if a team like Portland gets hot, they have a chance. It is going to hurt to having Trevor Ariza there, man. So at the very end, through all the struggles, everything going on in the media with this New York Knicks team, at the end of the day, I'm very proud of this New York team. Just the heart that they showed. For them to able to get as far as they did, I don't think we're ever going to see that again, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why this team has a special place in my heart. When I think of Sprewell, Canby, Houston, Larry Johnson, Patrick Ewing, even though he didn't play in the finals, Kurt Thomas. Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. It is the thing to do because you're from LA. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm a Lakers fan. Then I ask you the hard-heard questions if you're such a Lakers fan, and they really can't answer it like that. It's the casual thing to do. Do you guys want CP3? I only want CP3 if we get Embiid. I would sign Morris before I would sign Melo. I feel you on that. For sure. That was I was asking. You got your stats down. Really great sports talk you have. Keep it up, man. It's a thing you're only going to get better. Appreciate that, Anonymous. Yeah, they need Ariza. That was a big loss. That was a huge loss. The fact that Ariza's sitting, that's going to hurt them. You're missing 3 and D defense. Shout out to Jay in the building. He said if Patrick Ewing had an Isaiah Thomas type of point guard, he would have won some titles. I agree with that. I agree. Because the one thing that he would have had was consistency. And Derek Harper was not a consistent point guard. His consistency comes. Man, I laugh when you see the YouTube videos of fans being asked questions and they can't answer one. Yo, for real, man. For real. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this one's going to be a little bit shorter. Let me just check the comment real quick before I close out. Doc Rivers, Derek Harper, Mark Jackson, they were solid, but they weren't stars. Yeah, they needed a star at that position. If Patrick had help, period, he was old, he would have had a chance. Ewing would probably have multiple chips if MJ's prime was in Magic and Larry's era. Possible. He could have won with a Barkley. Talking about Knicks teams, if Melo hadn't demanded a trade to the Knicks and instead signed a free agency, they would have been more of a threat than they were. Huge facts, King. Huge facts, the King. Absolutely. We would have had depth. We would have had depth. And we would have had a younger team. Our older team didn't cut it because of the fact they had so many, they got injured. Easy. The body's not the same when you're at 37, 38, 39 as compared to early 20s. Mark Jackson was a possible, a maybe, a maybe. He's one of those on the bubble, no point intended. Maybe. Portland needs a reason like the Lakers need Avery Bradley, a reason that can defend three positions in today's game. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for coming through this stream. I'm going to call it a night for this one. We'll be coming back tomorrow with some music trivia Thursday. So definitely, I want you guys to pull up for that. If you guys are into music, music trivia will be from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I'm going to try to see the genres that we can pull up, but I definitely want everybody to come through. Yeah, and yes, Sly, they definitely should have seen if they could have kept Rod Strickland. Yeah, Jason Kidd's legs were done at that point. He was 40. Stat was playing like crazy. True, like a true superstar. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming through the stream. I appreciate everybody coming through. You guys were awesome as always. Yeah, Allen Houston's jumper was pretty. Um, yeah, Jason Kidd, I don't like him as a head coach. You guys were awesome tonight in the stream for the short time that we were on. Again, continue to like the videos, continue to share. I thought Felton was good for a stretch, but it really hurt though. That's what's up, Bodega. The King says Danilo was improving, so was Chandler. True. All right, peace. Yeah, it's crazy how Jason Kidd made us look like a contender at 40. But anyway, guys, appreciate you guys for coming through. This is the Lewis Sport Network telling everybody have a wonderful night. I will see you guys tomorrow on the next one. As always, we're doing music trivia tomorrow, so we're going to do a little something different. Make sure you guys pull up with get your music IQ ready. We're going to see what music you guys know from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So from the Lewis Sports Network to everybody in the chat, appreciate all of you guys. Shout out to Giants Alliance again, and make sure you guys go subscribe to this channel if you guys haven't. Appreciate you guys. As always, bless up, live, laugh, love. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys tomorrow on Music Trivia Thursday on the Lewis Sports Network. Trying a little bit something different. Take care, everybody. Take care. Have a wonderful night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.